The Apache woman hid in the rancher's closet until he discovered her. The sun was sinking low in the western sky, casting long, golden shadows across the dry, dusty land. The wind moved gently across the plains, carrying the faint smell of sagebrush and distant smoke. Amidst the vast emptiness, a young Apache woman named Naomi ran with quick, silent steps. Her heart beat fast, and every sound made her pause and listen. She had been on the run for days, fleeing from the chaos that had swallowed her village. Families were scattered, homes burned, and people she had loved were gone. She carried only what she could hide: a small bundle of clothes, a knife her father had given her, and memories that clung to her like shadows. Naomi knew the land well. She had grown up in its open spaces, learning how to move silently, how to read the signs in the grass, how to find water and shelter. But this time was different. Fear followed her like a shadow, and she knew she could not afford to make a single mistake. Every sound, cracking twigs, distant animal calls, or the whistle of the wind through rocks, felt amplified. She had to keep moving, always moving, until she found a place to hide. As she crested a small hill, she spotted a large ranch in the distance. It was surrounded by fences and barns, with smoke rising from the chimney. A few horses grazed lazily near the stable. Her heart sank for a moment. It was dangerous. People in these houses were not always kind to strangers, especially someone like her, alone and alone. But she had no choice. The day was fading, and she needed shelter before the night made her invisible, vulnerable to animals and other dangers. She approached slowly, crouching low behind the rocks and tufts of grass. She studied the house carefully. It seemed quiet, though she could see lights flickering inside. Perhaps the people had gone to bed, or perhaps they were too busy with their own lives to notice. She took a deep breath and moved closer, silent as the wind. Every step she took was careful. Her sandals barely made a sound on the dry earth. She knew she had to find a place to hide, a small space where she could stay without being discovered. Inside, the house seemed warm and cozy. The light spilling from the windows made the wooden walls glow in the fading sunlight. Naomi could see a kitchen with pots hanging over the hearth, a dining table set with simple utensils, and a living area where a few chairs were placed neatly. It was clear someone lived here, and they took care of their home. She felt a pang of longing. Homes like this reminded her of her own village, of the days before the chaos. But she pushed the thought aside. Survival came first. Her eyes scanned the room quickly and spotted a small, dark closet near the kitchen. It was just big enough to fit her body if she crouched low. She slipped inside, closing the door softly behind her. The smell of old wood and faint herbs filled her nose. She pressed her back against the wall, trying to calm her racing heart. Her mind was full of questions. Would they find her? Would they chase her away? Or worse, would they call for help and send her back to danger? Outside the closet, the sounds of the house continued. She could hear footsteps on the wooden floors, the occasional clink of a metal pot, and the soft murmurs of someone talking to themselves. She stayed still, barely breathing, letting the sounds wash over her. It was strange to be so close to people, and yet completely invisible. She felt a mix of fear and relief. Fear for what would happen if she was discovered, and relief that, at least for now, she had a safe place to stay. As darkness fell, Naomi could hear the wind sighing outside. She thought about her family, about the people she had lost, and about the uncertainty that lay ahead. She felt a strange mixture of loneliness and hope. The house was quiet, but it was alive in a way that reminded her of home. She could hear the faint rustle of animals outside, the creak of the wooden beams as the house settled, and the distant sound of water in a small stream nearby. Every little noise became part of a rhythm, a sign that life continued even when everything else seemed lost. She tried to eat, but she had only a small piece of dried meat and a few roots she had carried with her. It was not much, but it gave her energy. She thought about the long journey ahead, about the nights she would have to spend hiding, and about the people she might meet. Each thought brought a mixture of hope and anxiety. She was alone, yes, but she was strong. She had survived before, and she would survive again. Hours passed slowly. The house seemed to breathe around her, full of secrets and quiet stories. Naomi listened to the faint ticking of a clock, the soft creaking of floorboards, and the whisper of the wind through the cracks in the walls. She imagined the people who lived here, wondering about their lives, their fears, and their joys. Perhaps they had children, friends, and memories, just like she did. She wondered if they would understand her situation if they ever discovered her. As midnight approached, Naomi felt her eyelids grow heavy. She leaned back against the wall, letting the shadows wrap around her. The closet was small, but it was a haven. She could feel the warmth of the house seeping in, and for the first time in days, she felt a tiny spark of safety. Her thoughts drifted to the journey ahead, to the need to find her people, and to the hope that she might one day find a home where she could live without fear. She closed her eyes, listening to the quiet sounds of the ranch, letting her mind wander to memories of laughter, singing, and life before the fire. Every noise outside reminded her that she was not completely alone. Even if the world had turned harsh and cruel, there were still moments of beauty, of hope, and of connection. And in that small, dark closet, Naomi found a fragile sense of peace, a place to rest before the challenges of tomorrow. The night seemed endless, but Naomi stayed still and patient. She knew that dawn would bring new dangers, new decisions, and new paths to follow. But for now, she was safe. And in that moment, with the wind whispering through the trees and the house alive with quiet sounds, Naomi allowed herself to hope that she might survive this night, and perhaps even the nights after. The first light of dawn crept slowly into the house, spilling golden streaks across the wooden floors. Naomi stirred in the dark closet, her body aching from the cramped position she had held through the night. She had slept lightly, her mind alert for any sign of movement outside her hiding place. The quiet sounds of the morning, birds chirping faintly outside, a soft breeze through the cracks in the walls, and the distant lowing of a cow, felt like whispers of hope, reminding her that she had survived another night. Slowly she stretched her arms and legs, careful not to make any noise. Her muscles protested, stiff and sore from the hard wooden floor and the tiny space she had occupied. She took a deep breath, trying to push away the tension that had settled in her chest. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but she forced herself to be patient. She had learned that moving too quickly or making sudden noises could draw attention. Patience was her ally. She peered out through the small crack in the closet door. The kitchen was empty, bathed in soft morning light. Pots and pans gleamed faintly, and the smell of old wood mixed with the faint aroma of herbs lingered in the air. Naomi's eyes scanned the room. No one was there. She allowed herself a small sigh of relief. For now, the house seemed safe, and she had a few quiet hours to observe and plan. She thought about the man who lived here. The previous night, she had glimpsed him moving through the house, humming softly to himself. He had seemed ordinary, perhaps kind, though she could not know for sure. She knew she had to be cautious. Trusting too easily could be dangerous, especially for someone like her. She had learned the hard way that appearances could be deceiving. As the sun climbed higher, Naomi listened to the sounds of the ranch. Horses shifted in the stables, their hooves clopping softly on the wooden floor. A dog barked in the distance, its voice sharp and alert. She could hear the faint sound of water splashing as someone carried a bucket to the trough. Life continued outside, moving at its slow, predictable pace, while she remained hidden, a silent shadow in the corner of the house. Time passed slowly. Naomi explored her thoughts as carefully as she had explored the house. She thought about her village, about the people she had left behind, and about the life she had once known. She remembered the laughter of children playing by the river, the songs sung around evening fires, and the warmth of family and friends. These memories brought both pain and comfort. pain because they were gone, comfort because they reminded her of who she was and what she had to fight for. By mid-morning, Naomi realized she needed food. The small pieces of dried meat she had carried were gone, and her stomach reminded her sharply of her hunger. She watched the house for a long time, trying to determine the man's routine. He moved carefully, cleaning dishes, tending to the fire, and occasionally stepping outside to check the horses. Naomi noted his patterns. There was a time when the kitchen was empty for a few minutes, long enough for her to slip out for a quick search. When the moment came, she moved silently, stepping out of the closet like a shadow. Her bare feet barely made a sound on the wooden floor. She moved to the kitchen, scanning for anything edible. A loaf of bread sat on the counter, partially covered. Her heart raced, but she knew she had to be quick. She grabbed a piece, breaking it quietly, and ate slowly, savoring the taste and the small warmth it brought to her body. She felt stronger, more alive, but also more vulnerable. After her small meal, Naomi explored the house further, always alert for signs of the man's return. She found a small cupboard with dried herbs, a jug of water, and a few scraps of meat. Each item she discovered was a gift, a small victory that strengthened her resolve. She thought about leaving, about moving on to the next shelter, but fear held her in place. The world outside was unpredictable, full of dangers she could not yet face. Here, in the quiet house, she had a chance to gather strength. Days passed in a rhythm of observation, careful movements, and quiet survival. Naomi learned the man's habits more clearly. He woke early, tended to the animals, and spent time repairing fences or cleaning the yard. He rarely lingered in one place for too long, giving her moments to move around the house, to stretch, and to eat in secret. She discovered small joys in these moments: sunlight streaming through the windows, the smell of freshly baked bread, and the warmth of the morning air on her face. As the days turned into a week, Naomi began to feel a strange connection to the house. It was not her home, not truly, but it was safe. Its walls protected her, its rooms offered comfort, and its quiet presence reminded her that life could still exist in a world that had been cruel and violent. She felt a flicker of hope, small and fragile but powerful nonetheless. Despite the sense of safety, fear remained constant. Naomi never let her guard down completely. Every creak of the floor, every shift of shadows, reminded her that discovery could come at any moment. She moved with caution, learned to anticipate sounds, and developed strategies for remaining unseen. The closet remained her anchor, a place to retreat when the world became too dangerous. She learned to hide in other small spaces as well, under tables, behind curtains, or in storage areas, always testing the boundaries of safety. During one quiet afternoon, she accidentally knocked over a small pot. The clatter echoed through the empty kitchen. Her heart jumped into her throat. She pressed herself against the wall, breath held, waiting for a reaction. Footsteps approached slowly, deliberate and calm. The man, Samuel, entered the room. He paused, scanning the area, but did not seem alarmed. Naomi realized that perhaps he was accustomed to small noises, perhaps patient, or perhaps simply did not suspect a hidden presence. She exhaled slowly, relief flooding her body, but also a new sense of caution. She could not afford another mistake. As the week continued, Naomi became adept at moving within the house. She learned the sounds of the man's steps, the timing of his routines, and the moments when she could safely explore. She also observed his character. He was a man of habits, quiet and meticulous. He spent time caring for his animals, fixing fences, and keeping the house clean. There was a kindness in his gestures, small but noticeable, feeding a stray bird that had wandered in, humming softly to the horses, or pausing to watch the sunset. Naomi began to feel a cautious curiosity, wondering if he could ever understand her situation if he knew the truth. One evening, as the sun dipped low again, Naomi sat in the closet, thinking about her journey. She had survived days alone, navigating fear, hunger, and uncertainty. She reflected on her strength, her resilience, and the skills that had allowed her to endure. The house had become more than a hiding place. It was a classroom, teaching her patience, observation, and strategy. She felt herself growing stronger, more confident, and more prepared for the unknown challenges that awaited her beyond these walls. As night fell, Naeli prepared herself to sleep lightly once more. She positioned herself carefully, listened to the subtle sounds of the house, and allowed herself a small measure of peace. The days had been long, but she had learned, adapted, and survived. And though the future was uncertain, she knew she had the strength to face it, one cautious step at a time. The house, with its quiet corners and warm light, had become a temporary sanctuary. Naeli realized that survival was not just about running or hiding. It was about learning, observing, and understanding the world around her. In this space, she found more than safety. She found a chance to grow, to prepare, and to hope. And as the wind whispered through the plains outside, she knew that she was not merely hiding. She was living, learning, and waiting for the moment when she would step back into the world, stronger and wiser than before. Days turned into a quiet rhythm, but the stillness of the house began to feel tense in a way Naeli could not ignore. Though she moved carefully, the man who owned the house, Samuel, began to notice small signs that something was not right. At first, it was subtle: a chair slightly out of place, footprints on the dusty floor, or a cupboard door left ajar. Nothing concrete, nothing that could prove she was there, but enough to make him pause and think. Samuel was a man of habit. He knew his home, knew the order of things, and anything out of place made him uneasy. Naeli sensed the change almost immediately. She noticed him lingering longer in rooms she thought were empty, listening more carefully, and examining corners with quiet, deliberate steps. Her heart would race whenever he came near her hiding spots. She realized that staying in the same areas for too long was dangerous. She began to vary her movements, hiding in new places she discovered: a storage chest, behind stacks of firewood, or under the bed when she felt the sound of his footsteps coming close. Even with the growing danger, Naeli refused to leave the house. The world outside was unpredictable, filled with unknown threats. Here at least she had some control. She could plan her movements, observe Samuel's habits, and maintain a fragile safety. The days became a careful balance of patience and vigilance. Every creak of the floor, every rustle of the wind, and every shadow that passed in the corners of her eyes required focus. One mistake could change everything. Samuel, meanwhile, could not shake the feeling that someone, or something, was in his house. He began to set small tests, subtle traps to confirm his suspicions without alerting whoever might be hiding. A pot left slightly tilted on the stove, a few items moved deliberately, or crumbs sprinkled in unlikely places. He watched closely for reactions, waiting for any sign that something or someone was watching him back. Naeli noticed these little changes quickly. At first, she was puzzled by the unusual movements and arrangements, but soon realized Samuel was testing her. Her pulse quickened at the thought. He was clever, cautious, and observant, just as she had learned to be. She had underestimated him for a moment, assuming the house was a sanctuary without challenges. Now she realized she had entered a game, one where patience, silence, and sharp attention would be her only allies. Hunger became a constant companion, testing her focus and courage. She had to move quickly to find food during the moments when Samuel's attention was elsewhere. Sometimes she would risk stepping into the kitchen for a piece of bread. Other times she scavenged small scraps hidden behind barrels or in jars. She learned to balance her need for sustenance with the risk of discovery. Each successful attempt filled her with quiet satisfaction, a small victory in the constant struggle for survival. As the days passed, Naeli began to study Samuel more carefully. She noticed his routines, The times he fed the animals, the moments he spent repairing fences, and the periods he rested in the afternoon. He was meticulous, organized, and surprisingly gentle with the animals. There was a kindness in the way he moved, a quiet respect for life that surprised her. She had expected someone living alone in this harsh land to be rough, even cruel, but he was not. This observation both comforted her and added to the complexity of her emotions. She was hiding from someone who, at least in part, might not have harmed her intentionally. Still, fear never fully left her. Every shadow felt like a threat, every sudden noise a warning. She never allowed herself to be complacent. At night she would retreat to the closet, listening to Samuel's movements, the rustle of the wind, and the distant calls of animals outside. She would reflect on her situation, reminding herself that survival was a delicate balance of caution, strategy, and patience. One afternoon, Samuel set a subtle trap without realizing it. He left a small pile of wood slightly askew, not noticing that it would make a faint noise when disturbed. Naomi, moving through the house for water, stepped too close. The wood shifted slightly, making a soft but distinct sound. Her heart leapt into her throat. She froze, pressing herself against the wall, hardly daring to breathe. From the other room she could hear Samuel pausing, the faint creak of his footsteps as he moved toward the sound. For a tense moment, Naomi believed she would be discovered. She held her breath, willing him to pass without seeing her. Samuel entered the kitchen slowly, scanning the room with sharp, careful eyes. Naomi pressed herself further into the shadows, hoping that the soft morning light and her stillness would keep her hidden. His gaze lingered on the pile of wood, then moved around the room. He muttered to himself, a low sound she could not understand, and finally turned back toward the hallway. Her heart continued to pound, but relief flooded her as he left without suspicion. That evening, Naomi reflected on the close call. She realized that the game she was in was becoming more dangerous. Samuel was not careless. He was alert, thoughtful, and patient. Each day that passed increased the risk of discovery. She knew she had to become even more cautious, more aware, and more strategic. Every movement, every decision, could make the difference between safety and exposure. Despite the fear, she found small ways to cope. She began to notice the beauty in the house and the land around it. The sunlight streaming through the windows painted patterns on the floor, and the wind brought the faint scent of wildflowers and grass. The animals moved with gentle rhythms, and Samuel's quiet care for them revealed a human side she had not expected. These observations gave her a sense of connection, a small comfort in an otherwise tense and unpredictable life. Naomi also started to plan for the future. She thought about how long she could remain hidden, what she would do if Samuel discovered her, and how she could escape if needed. Her mind worked constantly, calculating risks, testing scenarios, and imagining outcomes. She realized that survival required more than physical strength. It required intelligence, adaptability, and careful planning. Each day, she became more skilled at reading the house, the man, and even the subtle changes in her own emotions. As the week wore on, Samuel's suspicions grew stronger. He began to notice more discrepancies, the slight shift in a chair, a dish not quite in its place, the faint smell of smoke that did not belong to his fire. Each clue added to his unease. He did not know what he was searching for, but he sensed that someone was sharing his home without his knowledge. His mind became alert in a way it had not been for years. The quiet life he had led alone was no longer simple. It was layered with mystery, suspicion, and the possibility of danger. Naomi, sensing the change, adapted. She avoided areas where he lingered, learned to anticipate his movements, and discovered new hiding places in unexpected corners. She moved like a shadow, blending into the house's rhythms and routines. Her fear was constant, but so was her determination. She would survive, and she would do it with care, patience, and strategy. One night, as she crouched in the closet, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. She thought about how far she had come since the day she had fled her village, how many dangers she had faced, and how much she had learned about herself. She realized that the house, once a simple hiding place, had become a school of survival. Every sound, every shadow, and every movement taught her lessons in observation, patience, and resilience. As she drifted toward sleep, the wind whispered through the cracks in the walls, carrying with it the faint scent of the plains outside. Naomi closed her eyes, letting the quiet sound surround her, and allowed herself a small spark of hope. Despite the fear, despite the constant tension, she had survived. And she knew that each day brought new challenges, new risks, and new lessons, but also the possibility of understanding, connection, and strength. The house had become more than a shelter. It was a place of growth, learning, and careful observation. Naomi understood that discovery might be inevitable, but she would meet it prepared, with courage and awareness. The days were long and tense, filled with small victories and constant fear, but she had learned that patience and strategy could give her the advantage, even in the most dangerous situations. And so she waited, moved cautiously, and watched. Samuel's suspicions grew, but so did her skill, and the quiet tension of the house became a delicate balance of fear, strategy, and resilience. Every day she survived was a testament to her strength, her intelligence, and her unwavering determination to live. And in the quiet moments, when the house seemed to breathe around her, Naomi realized that survival was not just about hiding. It was about learning, adapting, and preparing for whatever the next day might bring. The house felt different that morning. A tension hung in the air, faint but unmistakable, as if it had settled into the wooden beams and floors. Naomi sensed it immediately. The familiar quiet rhythm of the ranch was broken, replaced by the sound of deliberate footsteps that moved with a sharpness she had not heard before. Her pulse quickened, and she instinctively pressed herself into the shadows of her hiding place, a small cupboard she had chosen for the day. She could hear Samuel moving methodically, his eyes searching, his mind working as carefully as ever. He was closer now, and Naomi felt a chill run down her spine. She had anticipated that this day might come, but she had hoped it would be far in the future. Samuel had been cautious for days, noticing small irregularities, testing her presence, but now his steps carried purpose. He was actively searching. Naomi could hear the faint scrape of his boots on the wooden floor and the soft creak of hinges as he opened doors, peered into corners, and glanced under tables. Every sound was magnified in her ears. For the first time, Naomi felt the full weight of her vulnerability. She had moved with skill and patience for days, avoiding detection, but now it seemed that the house itself was closing in on her. She could not leave. Every potential escape route was too dangerous. The open windows risked exposure, and the doors were too well guarded. She had no choice but to stay where she was, hoping her small size, quiet movements, and careful timing would be enough. Samuel's footsteps paused directly outside the cupboard. Naomi held her breath, her body frozen in anticipation. She could hear his voice, low and cautious, muttering words to himself that she could not understand. He moved closer, then stepped back, then leaned forward slightly as if trying to see past the edge of the door. The moment felt endless, stretching time into a sharp, tense line of fear. Naomi's mind raced, thinking of every possible escape, every trick she could use, but she knew there was little she could do if he opened the door. Finally, the cupboard door swung open. Samuel's eyes met hers, and for a heartbeat, time stopped. Naomi could see surprise, shock, and uncertainty in his expression. She had expected anger, fear, or even aggression, but what she saw instead was a man caught off guard by something unexpected. She shrank back instinctively, pressing herself further into the shadows, but there was nowhere to go. She was exposed. I didn't know anyone was here," Samuel said, his voice steady but edged with surprise. He took a careful step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. Naeli's mouth went dry. She tried to explain, but words failed her. She only shook her head slightly, a silent plea that she meant no harm. Samuel's gaze softened slightly, though the wariness remained. He gestured for her to stand, and though she hesitated, she obeyed, slowly rising to her feet. For a long moment, neither spoke. Samuel studied her, noticing the dirt on her clothes, the weariness in her eyes, and the quiet determination in her stance. Naeli looked at him in return, trying to gauge his intentions, to see if there was kindness behind his careful, measured movements. Finally, she managed to speak, her voice low and careful. I am running. I have nowhere else to go. Please, I mean no harm." Samuel listened quietly, his expression thoughtful. He had seen fear before, had encountered people in desperate situations, but there was something in Naeli's eyes, strength, courage, and honesty, that caught his attention. He did not move quickly, did not shout or reach for a weapon. Instead, he considered her words, the situation, and the choices before him. He could call for help, chase her away, or turn her out into the dangerous world outside. But he did not. Something in him recognized the truth of her words. "You have been hiding for days," Samuel said finally, his voice calm but firm. "I saw the signs, I knew someone was here. Why didn't you come out sooner?" Naeli looked down, ashamed. "I was afraid," she admitted softly. "I did not know if you would help or harm me. I only wanted to survive." Her honesty hung in the air, and Samuel nodded slowly, understanding her fear. He stepped back slightly, giving her space but keeping his eyes on her. "You are brave," he said. "But this cannot continue like this. You cannot simply hide forever. I will not harm you, but you must tell me the truth. Why are you here? What has brought you to my house?" Naeli swallowed, her heart pounding. She could tell him her story, though it would bring her pain, memories she had tried to leave behind. But she knew she had to. She spoke slowly, carefully, recounting the events that had driven her from her village. She spoke of the fire, the raids, the loss of her family and friends, and the journey across the plains. Each word weighed heavily on her, but she spoke with courage, knowing that honesty was her only chance. Samuel listened intently, never interrupting, his eyes steady, his expression thoughtful. He did not react with judgment or anger, only with a quiet attention that made her feel seen and heard. When she finished, there was silence. The weight of her words hung in the air, heavy with sorrow, fear, and the harsh reality of her life. Samuel moved closer and placed a hand gently on a nearby table, his voice quiet but steady. "You have suffered greatly," he said. "I cannot undo what has happened, but I can offer you shelter, food, and a chance to rest. I do not know what the future holds, but for now, you are safe here." Naeli felt a wave of relief mixed with disbelief. She had feared confrontation, punishment, or rejection, but instead found understanding. She looked into Samuel's eyes and saw honesty, compassion, and a willingness to help. For the first time in days, she felt a sense of safety, a fragile but real hope that she could survive, even begin to rebuild. Samuel led her to the kitchen, offering a simple meal of bread and water. Naeli ate slowly, savoring the food and the warmth it brought. She noticed the care Samuel had taken to prepare the space, the quiet efficiency in his movements, and the patience with which he allowed her to eat without rushing or question. The house, once a place of hiding and fear, now felt different, safer, more human, more like a temporary home. As they sat together, Samuel asked questions, gentle and thoughtful, about her journey, her life before the loss, and what she hoped for the future. Naeli answered cautiously at first, then more freely as she realized he was truly listening, truly interested in understanding her. She found herself relaxing slightly, her body easing from the constant tension of hiding. She realized that survival was not only about avoiding danger, but also about finding moments of connection, trust, and understanding. Days passed after her discovery, but the dynamic in the house had changed. Naeli was no longer hiding. She moved freely, though still cautiously, observing Samuel and the routines of the ranch. He, in turn, adjusted, giving her space, respecting her presence and learning to trust her instincts. They developed a silent understanding, a fragile alliance built on necessity, respect, and the shared knowledge of the harsh world outside. Naeli taught Samuel subtle lessons about the land, about observation, and about patience. In return, Samuel offered her guidance on the ranch, showing her the care of animals, the work needed to maintain the house, and the skills required to live safely in this world. Their relationship was quiet, careful, and filled with unspoken respect. Neither fully understood the other, but each recognized the strength, intelligence, and courage that allowed the other to survive. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned golden, Naeli looked out across the plains. She realized that discovery, once feared, had brought something unexpected: connection, safety, and the beginning of trust. Though the world outside remained harsh and unpredictable, she had found a place to rest, to gather strength, and to prepare for what lay ahead. Samuel, watching her from the doorway, felt a quiet respect for her courage and resilience. He had encountered many challenges in his life, but few as remarkable as the young woman before him, who had survived alone, hiding and observing, until she finally revealed herself. He understood that survival was not only a matter of skill, but also of heart, trust, and the courage to step forward when the time was right. And in that quiet house, filled with the soft sounds of the evening, Naeli and Samuel found an uneasy peace. The danger had passed, for now, replaced by careful cooperation and the promise of understanding. Each had learned from the other, each had adapted, and each had discovered a new way to face the challenges of the world beyond the walls. Though the future remained uncertain, the moment was real, and in it they both recognized something essential. Survival was not only about hiding, avoiding, and enduring. It was also about trust, courage, and the willingness to face the unknown together. The days that followed Samuel's discovery of Naeli were filled with quiet adjustment, learning, and an unusual rhythm that neither had experienced before. For Naeli, the fear that had gripped her for so long began to ease, replaced by a cautious sense of belonging. Though she had entered the house as a shadow, unseen and silent, she was now part of its life, moving freely but carefully, learning the routines and contributing in small ways to its maintenance. Each morning, as sunlight spilled across the floorboards, she felt a small spark of comfort. Samuel, too, adjusted to the presence of someone living openly in his home. At first, he had been wary, unsure how to balance his trust with caution. But as he observed Naeli, he recognized her intelligence, her resourcefulness, and her courage. She was not simply hiding from the world. She was surviving in it, thinking ahead, observing, and learning. In a way, her presence had brought new life into the house, a quiet energy that reminded him of things he had long forgotten: the need for connection, companionship, and shared effort. Their days followed a careful routine. Naeli would wake before dawn, quietly preparing the kitchen or gathering small supplies. Samuel tended to the animals, fed the horses, and repaired fences, while keeping an eye on her without intrusion. Slowly, they began to communicate more openly, exchanging small stories, questions, and observations about the land, the animals, and the changing seasons. Naeli discovered that Samuel was patient, methodical, and surprisingly gentle for a man who lived alone in such a harsh landscape. Samuel discovered that Naeli was clever, attentive, and brave, possessing a quiet strength that inspired respect. Food, once a source of anxiety, became a shared effort. Naeli helped Samuel gather eggs, prepare meals, and tend to the animals. In return, he taught her how to handle the tools, how to repair fences, and how to care for the land. The work was difficult, but it provided a sense of purpose and accomplishment. Each day, they relied on one another in small ways, building a fragile but growing trust. The house, which had once been a place of hiding, slowly transformed into a home of careful cooperation and mutual respect. One afternoon, as the sun hung high in the sky, Nayeli and Samuel worked side by side in the garden. She dug small holes for seeds, planting them carefully, while Samuel carried water and adjusted the irrigation. They spoke little, but their silence was comfortable, filled with shared understanding. Nayeli noticed how patient Samuel was, how he guided her hands without correcting her harshly, and how he seemed to value her insight. It was a quiet partnership, born not of friendship, but of necessity and slowly growing respect. At night, the house took on a calm, reflective tone. Nayeli would sit by the small hearth, stitching or preparing food for the next day, while Samuel read quietly or tended to small repairs. The soft glow of the fire painted their faces with warmth, and the gentle creaking of the wooden floors became a soothing rhythm. They began to speak more openly, sharing pieces of their past, their hopes, and their fears. Nayeli spoke of her village, the people she had lost, and the lessons she had learned about survival. Samuel shared memories of life in the harsh land, of challenges faced alone, and of the quiet satisfaction he found in simple, honest work. One evening, as they worked together to mend a broken fence, a light rain began to fall. The sound of raindrops on the roof and the smell of wet earth filled the air. Nayeli paused, letting the rain wash over her hands, and Samuel stopped to watch her. There was a peacefulness in that moment, a sense of life continuing despite past hardships. Nayeli realized that survival was not simply about hiding or escaping danger. It was about finding beauty in the small, quiet moments, about learning to adapt, and about discovering strength in oneself and in the people around you. Over time, Nayeli began to explore the surrounding land more confidently. She learned to navigate the fields, follow the signs of animals, and identify the plants that could be useful for food or medicine. Samuel observed her carefully, offering guidance when necessary but allowing her to grow in her own way. Their relationship evolved, not into friendship in the usual sense, but into a deep understanding and reliance on one another. They each recognized the other's skills, resilience, and intelligence. Each had survived alone for years, and now, together, they were stronger. Winter approached, bringing cold winds and harsh nights. The challenge of survival became more pronounced, but Nayeli and Samuel faced it together. They worked to store food, gather firewood, and reinforce the house against the chill. Each task became a shared effort, a demonstration of their growing trust. Nayeli discovered that she was not merely a guest in Samuel's home, but a partner in maintaining it, contributing in ways that were meaningful and necessary. Samuel recognized that he could rely on her judgment, skill, and courage. The bond between them deepened quietly, built on respect, effort, and shared experience rather than words. One cold evening, Nayeli looked out across the snow-dusted plains. The landscape was stark, beautiful, and harsh all at once. She thought about her journey, the dangers she had faced, and the people she had lost. Yet here, in this quiet house, she had found safety, understanding, and a sense of purpose. She realized that survival was not just about hiding from danger, but about creating opportunities, finding allies, and learning to navigate life's challenges with patience and courage. Samuel approached her quietly, carrying a small lantern. He handed it to her and they stood together, watching the moonlight reflect off the frozen ground. For the first time, Nayeli felt something she had not felt in a long time: hope. It was fragile, delicate, but real. She understood that life could be harsh and unpredictable, yet there were moments of beauty, care, and connection that made survival worthwhile. In the following weeks, Nayeli and Samuel settled into a rhythm that balanced caution with trust. They worked together during the day, shared small conversations in the evening, and maintained vigilance against the unpredictable world outside. Yet within the walls of the house, there was a quiet peace, a sense of purpose, and a growing awareness that they were not alone. Each day brought new challenges, but also small victories, laughter, and moments of understanding. One afternoon, a stray dog appeared near the fence, shivering in the cold. Nayeli approached it slowly, offering food and gentle words. Samuel watched, impressed by her patience and care. Together, they guided the dog into the yard, warmed it by the fire, and welcomed it into the small, growing household. The act was simple, yet it symbolized something larger: the ability to protect, nurture, and create life in a world that could be cruel and unforgiving. As spring approached, the land began to bloom again. The snow melted, streams flowed more freely, and green shoots appeared across the plains. Nayeli and Samuel worked together to plant gardens, repair fences, and prepare for the season ahead. The house, once a refuge from danger, had become a home, a place where survival was possible, where trust could grow, and where life could flourish despite past hardships. In quiet moments, Nayeli reflected on how far she had come. From a frightened, fleeing girl hiding in a small closet, she had grown into a capable, confident young woman who understood the land, could navigate danger, and had learned to trust another person. Samuel, too, had changed. He had learned patience, empathy, and the value of shared effort. Together, they had built something fragile but resilient, a partnership founded on respect, trust, and mutual understanding. As they stood together one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky with streaks of gold and pink, Nayeli felt a sense of accomplishment and quiet happiness. The world outside was still unpredictable, still filled with challenges, but within the walls of the house, she had found a place where she could thrive, learn, and grow. She understood that survival was not only about avoiding danger, but about building strength, forming bonds, and embracing the quiet beauty of life. Samuel placed a hand gently on her shoulder, a silent gesture of acknowledgement and trust. Nayeli smiled faintly, understanding the meaning behind it. They had both faced hardship, danger, and uncertainty, yet together they had created a life filled with purpose, resilience, and cautious hope. They were no longer simply surviving. They were living, learning, and preparing for the days ahead. The house, once a place of hiding, had become a symbol of endurance, partnership, and quiet courage. Nayeli knew that the journey was not over, that challenges would come again, and that life would demand strength and careful thought. But she also knew that she was not alone. With Samuel by her side, with the lessons she had learned, and with her growing confidence, she could face whatever the future held. And so, as night fell across the plains, Nayeli and Samuel sat together by the fire. The wind whispered through the trees outside, carrying the scent of fresh earth and blooming flowers. The house was warm, safe, and alive with quiet energy. In that moment, Nayeli realized that survival was more than hiding, more than running, and more than enduring. It was about courage, trust, connection, and hope. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe that life could be brighter, safer, and filled with purpose. And as the stars appeared one by one in the clear night sky, Nayeli and Samuel understood that the days ahead, though uncertain, could be met together. With resilience, understanding, and the quiet strength they had discovered within themselves and in each other.